True crime shows intrigue us because of our innate desire to better understand the human condition and what actually goes through the mind of an evil genius.
¿Qué pasa, Diego? Tell me, what happened?
What can I say? I like to kill.
Unfortunately, just like Jack the Ripper and the Zodiac Killer, a lot of other serial killers in modern history have managed to evade justice. Time to do some digging into the 9 most gruesome crimes that were never solved. What's up, Facnatics? This is Discovery Amuse, serving up your daily dose of the most outrageous, outlandish, and out-of-this-world fun facts. Stick around till number 1 because that cold case has been covered multiple times in pop culture. It even inspired a movie and a character in American Horror Stories. Now, let's crack these cold cases.
Who killed Pat? Why? Where is this documentary going to be distributed? HBO? Netflix?
Number 9. The Hinterkafek Killings. To this day, a lot of so-called internet sleuths are trying to unravel the mysteries of one of Germany's greatest unsolved crimes.
It's just one of the more terrifying ordeals that I've ever come across.
Harrowing and perplexing case has never been solved.
This is the case of the Hinterkafek murders.
The Hinterkafek was a small farmstead located about 43 miles north of Munich, Germany, that was home to the Gruber family. In March of 1922, the head of the family, Andreas Gruber, noticed strange footsteps in the snow, which led to their house but didn't lead back out. It's also important to note that their previous housemaid resigned 6 months earlier out of fear, claiming that the house was haunted because she heard strange noises at night. A week later, people from the community noticed the family's absence in school and church, but assumed they were fine because smoke was wafting out of the house. However, when the mailman saw the letters piling up, the neighbors checked, and that's when they discovered that Andreas, his wife Kazilia, his daughter Victoria, and grandson Kazilia Jr. were butchered to death in the barn with a mattock, a tool similar to a pickaxe. Also found dead in her bed was Maria, their new maid, and the other grandchild, Joseph, who was murdered in his crib. Investigators believe that the perpetrator, or perpetrators, stayed in the house after the homicide, as evidenced by the chimney smoke and the well-fed animals. Some believe that the noise heard by the old maid may have been from the killer, who could have been hiding there the entire time before the brutal act. If you thought this was dark, wait till our top pick to learn about the disturbing details of the murder and mutilation of an aspiring Hollywood actress. Number 8. Lake Boda murders. Looking at this peaceful lake located not far from Finland's capital of Helsinki, you wouldn't immediately think that it's the site of a gruesome triple homicide 60 years ago. The incident started on June 4, 1960, when 4 Finnish teenagers, 15-year-olds, Mila Ermeli Björklund and Anja Maki, and their 18-year-old boyfriends, Seppo Boisman and Nils Gustafsson, went on a double camping date in Lake Bodum's shore. In what seemed like a scene from a teen slasher movie, the next morning, Mila, Anja, and Seppo were found dead after being stabbed and bludgeoned to death. Nils suffered a concussion, a fractured jaw, and broken facial bones, but he ultimately survived the fatal attack. The police's initial suspect was Carl Vladimir Gillstrom, who owned a nearby stall, but no official charges were pressed against him, and 9 years later, he committed suicide. Another suspect, Hans Assmann, was allegedly seen in a hospital in bloody clothes the day after the attack, but police said he had a solid alibi at the time of the murder. The first arrest finally came 44 years later in 2004 when the police suspected Nils Gustafsson, the lone survivor, of being the actual killer. However, Nils's defense won the case, and he was acquitted of all charges. Number 7. West Mesa bone collector.
This was one of the most horrific crimes in the history of our city, and there's been no resolution to what has happened here.
This story started off quite innocently until things escalated quickly. On February 2nd of 2009, a woman was walking her dog in Albuquerque's West Mesa when her pooch found a bone, but it wasn't any ordinary bone. Turns out it was a femur, or a human thigh bone.
Shut the f
up!
When authorities dug up the site, they uncovered the remains of up to 11 women, one of which was pregnant when she was killed. Further investigation revealed a common thread among the victims. Most were Hispanic sex workers who were gone missing between 2001 and 2005. The fact that they were all dumped in one site led police to believe that this was the work of a single serial killer, the West Mesa bone collector.
We have received over 1,100 tips since that first day 12 years ago. We continue to get tips, about 20 or 30 a year now.
Over the years, there's been 2 names on top of the suspects list. One of them had been dead since 2006, and the other is currently serving a 90-year sentence for sexual assaults, but neither of them have been charged for the murders. Number 6. The killing of Bob Crane. Bob Crane was an actor popularly known for his lead role as Colonel Robert Hogan in the 60s sitcom Hogan's Heroes.
Would you believe we're making an escape?
Hogan, stop lying to me. I'm much too smart for you.
But just when he was at the height of his career and had become a household name, in June 1978, his bloody corpse was found in his bedroom. An electrical cord was tied around his neck. His skull was viciously smashed, resulting in scattered fragments on the pillow. The police immediately pointed towards a certain John Carpenter as the prime suspect. You see, hiding behind Crane's all-American, family-friendly persona was a secret addiction to videotaping his sexual encounters with various women. And Carpenter became Crane's sescapade cohort.
Here we are. Batman and Robin.
It became kind of a hobby that went too far. I think their friendship really revolved around electronics and women.
According to reports, Crane wanted to end their friendship, which police saw as a possible motive for Carpenter. Blood was found in Carpenter's car, but the DNA tests were inconclusive back then. 38 years later, in 2016, the blood was retested, and the result was...
The DNA found on the door of John Carpenter's rental car is not from Bob Crane.
So the search for the murderer continues to this day. Number 5. The Axeman of New Orleans. Between May 1918 and October of 1919, the serial killer who came to be known as the Axeman of New Orleans wreaked terror, especially among the Italian community whom he mainly targeted. Striking in the dead of night, the Axeman would be leaving some of the victims seriously wounded while others dead with fractured skulls and slashed throats.
Axeman didn't carry around his own tools. He simply would chisel his way in, usually through a back door, find whatever was handy, and go to work.
After one of his kills, in the vein of Jack the Ripper and the Zodiac Killer's M.O., the Axeman sent an odd letter to the local newspaper. In it, he claimed that he was not a human being, but quote, unquote, spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. But wait, it gets even more bizarre. The Axeman also wrote that he plans to attack on the night of March 19, 1919, St. Joseph's Day. He promised to spare homes that played jazz music in full swing. The Axeman reportedly struck 4 more times that year before disappearing without a trace. Number 4. Lizzie Borden house. Whoa, it seems like there was no shortage of axe-wielding killers back in the day. In 1892, a few years ahead of the Axeman from New Orleans, Sunday school teacher Lizzie Borden found her father, Andrew Borden, sprawled on the sofa and covered in blood after being struck by a hatchet 11 times. Her stepmother, Abby, was also slaughtered in the bedroom with 19 whacks. Investigators soon found out that the day before the murders, Lizzie tried to buy cyanide from a drugstore. Lizzie's friend, Alex Russell, also testified that she saw Lizzie burning one of her dresses after the incident. It seemed as though Lizzie ticked all the boxes of being the prime suspect.
The prosecution was relatively straightforward. It was simply that only Lizzie Borden had the opportunity to commit the murders.
However, the defense had a witness who claimed that she saw Lizzie at the barn at the time of the killings. They also argued that the gruesome nature of the double homicide would have soaked the culprit in blood too, but Lizzie's clothes were spotless. After a long, arduous trial, she was acquitted, and after inheriting her father's estate, Lizzie lived a quiet life until her death. Number 3. The JonBenet Ramsey case. In the early 90s, Colorado kid JonBenet Ramsey was already making a name for herself in the child beauty pageant circuit. But in Christmas of 1996, the 6-year-old princess suddenly went missing.
We were kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on. Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God!
Her parents, Patsy and John Ramsey, found a 2-page ransom note by the staircase. While waiting for the abductors to call, the investigator asked JonBenet's father, John, to look around the house. And that's when he found his daughter's lifeless body in the basement, with her hands tied and her mouth duct taped.
John Ramsey picked that little girl up, took the tape off of her mouth, and dragged her upstairs in his arms. And then the coup de grace. He grabs a blanket, which is full of who knows what kind of contaminants, and throws it over the body.
According to official reports, the cause of death was strangulation with a makeshift garrote, which came from one of the mother's paintbrushes. The 6-year-old also suffered a skull fracture, shots from a stun gun, and signs of sexual abuse were found. John and Patsy became the prime suspects. The police theorized they might have accidentally harmed JonBenet and covered it up with a kidnapping story. John and Patsy have denied all accusations against them.
We were outraged. We were shocked. How could they think that?
It wasn't until Detective Lou Smith was brought into the team that the investigators explored an intruder angle. A pedophile by the name of Gary Olivia, who was serving a sentence for the possession of child pornography, confessed to JonBenet's murder, but police said that DNA tests failed to connect him to the crime scene. Number 2. The Cleveland Torso Murderer. This notorious killer was dubbed as the Torso Murderer by the press because his victims were found without heads or limbs. He was also known as the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, due to the area where most of the bodies were dumped. During his murderous run from 1935 to 1938, he killed a total of 7 men and 5 women, mostly prostitutes or homeless people.
And they realized that he must probably have had some medical knowledge because of the way that the bodies had been cut up and dismembered.
More than 1,500 people were interviewed in connection to the murders, but nothing came out of it. In 1938, the killings in Cleveland stopped after police received an alleged letter from the Torso Murderer himself, which said that they can rest now since he went to sunny California for the winter. Now, before we get to our number 1 pick, do us a solid and make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to choose all so you don't miss out on any of our latest life-changing boredom-busting content. And of course, be sure to turn on notifications in your app settings. Number 1. Black Dahlia. 22-year-old Elizabeth Short was an aspiring Hollywood star given the nickname Black Dahlia because she liked to wear black, and the murder mystery movie Blue Dahlia was playing at the time. On January 15, 1947, her lifeless body was found in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, in what would be one of the most gut-churning homicides in American history.
The victim has been cut in half, all organs removed, blood drained from the body, and the mouth sliced ear to ear.
One of the prime suspects was a man named George Hoddle, who murdered his secretary 2 years prior to Black Dahlia's killing, and who was accused by his teenage daughter of sexual abuse in 1949. But just as he was about to be arrested, Hoddle fled the country and moved to the Philippines. In 1999, his son Steve Hoddle wrote several books claiming that his father George was indeed the killer.
What they did was they tape recorded him 18 detectives 24/7 for 42 days. They got him not only to confess to the Black Dahlia murder, and these are not phone taps, these are like microphones hidden in the wall that he had no idea were there.
So, which of these unsolved mysteries might just keep you up later at night? Let us know in the comments section below. Take home any of our exclusive gear by browsing our merch shelf or clicking the link in the video description. And while you're at it, take our quiz to find out how you can earn extra cash online doing what you do best. Awesome, right? We're dialing up the creepy factor. Don't miss our countdown to the 9 most haunted dolls on Earth. Make sure to keep the lights on for that. Till then, stay inquisitive, Facnatics, and we'll see you in the next video.